Senator Shoebridge.
Thank you, President. I seek leave to move a motion relating to the Israeli President's visit to Australia as circulated.
Is leave granted? No. Leave is not granted, Senator Shoebridge.
Thanks, President. Pursuant to contingent notice standing in the name of Senator Waters, I move that so much of the standing orders be suspended as would prevent me moving a motion to provide for the consideration of a matter, namely a motion to give precedence to a motion relating to the Israeli President's visit to Australia. President, it's hard to express just how disgraceful the government's invitation to Israel's President Herzog is. They know it will inflame community divisions. They know it will call into question our government's commitment to international law and human rights, and they just don't care. We've seen the photo of President Herzog signing bombs that were sent into Gaza. He's accused by a UN Commission of Inquiry of inciting genocide. That's not just a slogan that you don't like. It's the active facilitation of the mass murder of tens of thousands of Palestinian adults and children and unimaginable harm and sorrow for the hundreds of thousands injured and the millions that love them. The UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry found that President Herzog made statements that incited the commission of genocide. On the 13th of October 2023, President Isaac Herzog stated, "It's an entire nation out there that is responsible. It's not true, this rhetoric about civilians who are not aware and not involved. It is absolutely not true." That's what he said. And that isn't just inflammatory rhetoric. What Herzog was calling for is collective punishment, and there is a reason it is illegal and a war crime. That appalling statement was also cited before the International Court of Justice as demonstrating genocidal intent on the part of Israel. What the hell is Labor doing inviting someone like that to Australia? They talk big about stopping hate at our borders, using ministerial powers to refuse visas, but then send a special invite to Herzog. It shows what they really mean.
Senator Shoebridge, I am going to remind you that this is a suspension order. It is absolutely okay for you to refer to the person that you're talking about, but you also need to inform the chamber as to why you are moving this motion.
This is urgent because this needs to be before the Senate so as we rescind the invitation. He's coming next week. Over 500 prominent Australians, including former diplomats and public servants, took out a full-page advertisement calling this invitation, which will be happening next week, immoral and wrong, and they're right. Hundreds of thousands of Australians have spent more than 2 years in the streets protesting genocide. They've marched, they've rallied peacefully, and we've joined them. And they are a great movement for humanity, like Australia has not seen before. The longest continuing large mass protests across the country, and their core demand is peace. They've used their voice to say not in our name. And how does this government respond? They wrap themselves around the head of state of the country, the very country accused of committing those crimes.
Senator
but be clear.
Senator Shoebridge, I remind you again, you are talking about the suspension motion that you moved, not about the substantive motion, which you weren't given leave to move.
This is happening next week. And in this parliament, the government will try and shut down the debate. On the streets, they'll try and shut down the debate. They'll try and stop us saying, as is our right, that Herzog is not welcome and should not visit next week. They will try to ensure that someone who signed a bomb that was dropped on civilians in Gaza is shielded from even seeing the millions of people in this country that reject his actions. This government and other Labor governments around the country are simultaneously trying to restrict protest rights and suppress dissent, including in this chamber. Australia is a signatory to the Genocide Convention. That means we have moral obligations, not suggestions, not guidelines, but obligations to prevent genocide wherever it occurs.
Senator Shoebridge, once again, I remind you to focus on why it is necessary to have the suspension motion.
Next week, this government is going to be providing the red carpet for a man who incited genocide, and the genocide isn't over. It's continuing today. During the so-called ceasefire, Israeli Defence Force attacks have killed over 500 people and injured more than 1,300 others, all while Isaac Herzog has been in power. I can't believe I have to say this. When someone is accused by the United Nations of inciting genocide, you don't invite them for tea. You don't give them a platform. You certainly don't welcome them as a guest of honour next week while suppressing the voices of those who object. The division this visit will cause isn't on the protesters. It isn't on the hundreds of thousands of Australians demanding their government live up to its values. The division next week's visit will cause is on this government for making a choice that betrays the Australian community's conscience and exposes this government's Labor's moral cowardice. History will judge this moment. It will judge whether we stood on the right side or whether we chose cynical pandering to the US and its ally Israel over justice, whether we listened to calls for justice or tried to silence them in here, on the streets and in the media. And I urge all members to support this motion, to send a clear message that Australia will not be complicit in genocide. This invitation is immoral, it is wrong, and it's time we said so.
Thank you, Senator Shoebridge. Senator Cash.